Welcome to the LVX Files, a podcast for occultists about occultists. I'm your host, Sean, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the LVX Files wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on all the new episodes. Okay, everyone, welcome to the LVX Files. Evelyn, the owner of the Herb Witch Shop. Welcome, Evelyn. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful. Everything good down there in Southern Ontario?
Yes, actually, the weather's been beautiful. It's not been too hot. Down in the Windsor-Essex area, it becomes like swamp-like in the summer because it's so humid and it's not pleasant. So
I
it's
used
like
I used to live in Southern Ontario, like where I am in Thunder Bay. It can get humid, but it's typically not a really humid area. So when I moved to I both lived in Toronto and Ottawa, and I remember one summer my parents came to visit me in Ottawa, and it was so hot and so humid the entire time we're there. And of course, I'd been there for a year already, so I'd seen everything that you need to see in Ottawa. So of course I had to do it all over again with my parents because my father hadn't been there since he was in the Air Force and my mother had never been there. So doing all this touristy stuff, and we even took one of those buses that turns into a boat and goes on the water, and it's all plexiglass and it's slow, and the sun, and it was so hot and it was so humid. It was so humid it felt like walking through water, and I thought it was the worst experience. So what do? I of course then proceed to move to Houston, where it can be 110 degrees and 98% humidity, where you break out in a sweat standing still at midnight.
That sounds like Windsor. Okay.
Yeah. So it can be pretty gross, although I do like the heat. And I love Texas.
I don't know. I am a fair English rose and I have a problem with it, even though I've been in Canada for 38 years. I don't think my body's ever said, okay, this is a place you're going to be comfortable with, because the weather we're having right now is like, don't think this is the way it should be.
But when I moved to Texas, and talking about like the humidity and whatnot, and I'm like, well, you say talking to people that born and raised there, I'm like, well, you're lucky, like you're used to this, and they're like, no, there's no getting used to this. Like there just isn't. I mean, you're fully clothed, and I move for work, and I'm in suits all day. And they're like, no, that you don't, there's no getting used to 110 degrees and 98% humidity. There just isn't, especially when you have to be fully clothed for work, so no, I don't think you really adapt. Where are you from?
I was born in a town called Stoke Mandeville in Buckinghamshire.
Oh, well, how about that? Now,
Yeah.
why did you move to Canada?
Well, I didn't make the decision. My parents did.
Okay. Oh, so you moved here when you were a kid.
Yeah. My dad was an engineer.
Okay.
He was recruited by CAE, which was a Canadian engineering company.
Okay.
And so basically they paid for him and my mom and the 6 kids to move to Canada.
Oh my God.
So the first place we lived was in Quebec. So that was interesting. Because I had an English accent. So people always say, why don't you have an English accent? I said, because the French kids beat it out of me. Literally.
I bet. Honestly, like that doesn't surprise me. I mean, that's not a joke. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was we didn't, unfortunately, I mean, that was just a bad experience of being a kid and being bullied because I was different, right? Because, had a British accent and I was Anglais and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't blame the whole province of Quebec, but the whole FLQ crisis had just happened, and my dad was British. He was getting nervous. So we moved to Ontario probably about 2 years after coming to Canada.
Okay.
Set up there.
It's
So,
weird. It's hard to imagine that kind of scenario where someone's like, okay, you know what? In Canada, I don't feel safe here. Something bad might happen. I got to move to another province. Like that's weird to think of, but that was a reality.
there were good times, and it was something that happened, and a
Mhm.
lot of people forget that we had the War Measures Act, and like, I mean, so some of us of that age, we remember that, especially my kids, it's thank the gods they've never lived through anything like that, but
Mhm.
it certainly was an experience. So welcome to Canada.
That's
I mean, I can't see myself being anywhere else. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing country.
oh, well, it is. Yeah. I shouldn't sound
I mean,
surprised.
we have our problems, but well, there's
Every
I've
every country every country does.
but I just and winter, okay, not too fond of that. Winter,
Mhm.
but but all the other seasons are great. So, and I think my kids have had really good opportunities here.
Yeah.
Canadian, and we've raised our kids, and um so it's been good for my kids too. So
Yeah, absolutely. No country's perfect. Every country has their positives and negatives. I mean, I live
I'm
in
not going to get political in this interview. So
yeah, that's the thing I was thinking about. Yeah, I was thinking about that last week. I'm like, I'm gonna have to be really careful because between the two of us, it would be so easy for both of us to delve into politics, and which I love. I mean, I love talking about politics, but with you in particular, like we would just the interview would just go off the rails, and it would just be a politics episode. So yeah, I'll do my best.
we can do another episode just
Yeah.
on politics.
Yeah, I'll do my best to nip that in the bud.
It's hard for me too.
Yeah. I'll be very disciplined in this episode. I tend not to be very disciplined with the episodes. I really like just starting and just letting them progress how they progress, but it would just be too easy for it to just go off, especially what happened last week at Queen's Park, and then what happened today with Anime Paul's press conference. Like, I mean, I can talk, and I don't want to right now. So yeah.
I've had a full day of it, so
Exactly. So let's not let this be a work Zoom call for you. So yeah, so we're going to talk about even more fun stuff, which is you and your life. So typically what I do, and all of my listeners are getting to know this by now, typically what I do is I like to begin literally right at the beginning. That one defining moment, or sort of maybe series of instances that set you on your magical / spiritual path, and then we just take it from there, and then we just start talking. It's like the occult version of This Is Your Life.
It's great.
Yeah. Without pictures, because I don't have pictures.
Yeah, hilarious. Oh, well, okay, we'll start at the beginning. So,
at the beginning.
Okay, so large family. Dad, I was born in England. Dad's British. He was Anglican. He converted to Catholicism when he met my mother. My mother is Irish, so Irish Catholic. So there's so much trauma. We don't have enough time. It's just because how many people I know who are Catholic who are now pagan. Like it just astounding. You had a bunch of people in a room and like, oh, who used to be Catholic, and then just get really crowded, right?
Yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
Yeah.
My father's side of the family, they're francophone, so Roman Catholic. My mother's side is Irish, so Roman Catholic. They're Irish by way of Newfoundland. So
Mm.
yeah, so I was actually baptized Roman Catholic, although my parents were never really religious and we didn't go to church all that much. So I dodged a bullet there. And my mother, because she went through Catholic school, and she told my father that like we're not putting my brother and myself, not putting us through Catholic school. Like that's not an option at all. So yeah, I don't have like the typical, I shouldn't say typical, but the sort of experience that I hear a lot of about, like, from pagans who were raised Roman Catholic. But yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. And I think there was a few turning points for me. As a young child, the fact of being left-handed, and our grade 2 teacher, there was two of us. There was me and another girl called Kelly, and she was also left-handed. So she put us away from everybody else in the corner beside each other.
What?
Okay. So it's like, well, because we're left-handed, right? And it's like, so even as a child, when I've always thought I was different, but now
Wait, were you in a Catholic school?
yes, yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
So the
Right.
nuns with who I didn't think had any feet because they seemed to coast along the floor. But like I said, too much trauma. But so basically it was like, okay, you're left-handed, you're going over here. So I'm not gonna strap you, like I did to your own mother, but I
Mm,
will put you in the corner here. So like, okay, I'm going, I really don't like this, and I don't think this is right. And I'm left-handed, so what? Big deal, right? A kid
yeah,
thinking, but I can't do anything because I'm just a kid.
yeah.
So, so that was like, okay. And then there was a point where it's like, I said to my mom, um, I want to be a priest. And she goes, well, that'll never happen. That will never happen because you're a girl. Hmm. Okay. So I don't think I want to be in this religion anymore. They put me in a corner. And then they tell me I can't be a priest. I can't be a leader in my faith community because that's the way it is. So no
Hmm.
offense to my mom, because we could go at it for hours, but to me, it was like, that's when things changed for me. It's like, okay, that was my absolute last sign that I needed to find my own way, and I needed to not feel that I had no power, and not feel that I wasn't important, and that I, you know, couldn't make a difference.
Hmm.
So,
Were you very young at this point?
yeah, well, I mean, the grade 2 was the sitting in the corner because you're
Mm.
left-handed. And then wanting to be a priest, I think that was grade 4, because I was really excited because I thought, oh, I want to be a priest. This would be really cool,
Hmm.
and be a faith leader. And no, you can't do that because you're Catholic and women can't. You can be a nun, you can be a bride of Christ. I'm like, hey, like that's whatever. I was just like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be in charge.
Mm.
I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? I wanted
Yeah.
to be a woman in charge, and so I'm starting to sound like a feminist. That's leaking out,
That's
but I
okay.
mean, it has to happen because of these things that shape me.
Mm.
Um, you know, to leave that established religion and basically say, I really do not want to be involved in any type of structured religion ever again.
Mhm.
So, and then I went to university, and um, and
So you
yeah.
just jumped from grade school to university. So, like, through your teenage years, there was no like witchy
No, my
stuff
teenage
going
years,
on.
that's a whole nother story. Okay, so teenage years from age 16. Okay, all right. 16 to 19, mom didn't take any pictures of me because I was a punk and I had like a mohawk and had
Ah!
Martins. And so this all makes sense, right? Like you don't belong. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I don't. So I was a little anarchist, um, very politically active at a young age. So 16, I started saying the world sucks. but let's change it from within. You know, I didn't say let's blow it up. I just said, well, I'm going to get involved and I'm going to go and do protests, and, you know, I'm going to just be a rabble rouser. So I was also, about that time, I met with some musicians. I've always been somebody who sings. So I was a lead singer in a punk band in London, Ontario.
Awesome.
So, so, so that's a whole nother story, what I
Yeah.
did major. And, you know, but then we played in Toronto a couple of times, and actually quite a few times. But then you got to the point where you're like 19 and it's like, you know what? I really don't think I'm going to be able to eat just being paid in beer
Mm-hmm.
or making enough money just to pay for the amplifiers that we rented for the night.
Yeah.
So that's when I went to university, because I always wanted to go to university. And I actually decided to go into sociology, and I specialized in deviance.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that makes sense too, right?
Yeah.
I love subcultures. So I wrote my thesis on subcultures. I always did subculture studies. So it makes sense where I am now, because I'm definitely in a subculture.
Right.
And yeah. So everything, it's weird how everything connects, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And university, you know, gave me all those horrible ideas. I think my mom was just totally horrified about how university changed me. Ah. You're thinking for yourself, but I was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I got my degree, but I got to take some really interesting courses,
Mm-hmm.
and I took anthropology of religion. And my minor was in anthropology,
Okay.
and that was another aha moment. I had this German anthropology professor, and I think his name was Dr. Gunther, right? Typical, you know, with the sports jacket with the patches on it, and you know, and he had this German accent. But he taught me so much about different religions, different perspectives. Learned about shamanism for the first time. Learned about the other, and I'm like, whoa, like, wow, this is amazing. This is just blew me away. That, you know, coming from such a religious background where I was basically told how to think,
Mm-hmm.
I was exposed to all these things where I could think about them, and I could, you know, it was just exciting. So university, yeah, it did change me, but I think it was the best thing for
Right.
me,
Yeah, absolutely.
especially as a female. Um, you know, because um, it gave me a self identity. It gave me power, gave me that
Mhm.
power that I felt I didn't have. Knowledge is power, right? So it gave me
Yeah,
that power
absolutely.
that I did not have growing up. So it was great.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of exciting when you have an experience like that where you realize the world is so much bigger and so much more interesting than what you were kind of like raised to believe. And you know, and you have so many aha moments and discoveries, and yeah, it's exciting. You know, that's definitely an exciting time. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you know, that age when you're younger, but I mean people, I mean, as fully grown adults, um can discover that greater world for the
And never
first time.
stop. I mean, I think that the thing that's been great for me is all along, I keep having those aha moments. I keep leaving myself open to discovering more and to changing my mind too,
Yeah,
and not being too rigid, and like saying, you know what, I think I was being a bit of an asshole there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and yeah, okay, that's really valid, and I think you're right. So maybe it's because I'm at that age now, right, where I'm chill with a lot of things, and
yeah.
and when somebody's right, I'm okay with that. I don't have anything to prove. And I'm open to that. I'm open to different perspectives.
Mhm.
And I'm, so that's exciting too. That I
Yeah,
haven't
absolutely.
that I haven't got rigid. I see a lot of people that are so rigid that they go, well, I love being told that I'm too old for things too. Like that's
Yeah.
an area
Yeah.
because I just turned 56. So, and I love being the crone stage. I think it's great. Because I remember I had this first tattoo done when I was 50. And
Oh,
it was like,
okay.
why did you wait so long? I said, well, because that's my crone tattoo. I had
Yeah.
to earn it. I had to earn it, right? So, and I'm gonna get another one, shortly when things open up a little bit. So, so for me, that was really important too, because that was a symbol of me getting to that stage of my life where I could say, I'm a crone and it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
And I've been through a lot. And I own that and
Yeah.
I'm good where I am right now.
I like adulthood. I have to say, we live in such a society where like a youth-centric society, or at the very least looking like you're a youth when you're not. But I have to say, like, adulthood, because I'm 42 now, and I have zero fucks.
It's great. Wait till
It,
you're
it,
56.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, I've gotten to a point where I'm not going to take anyone's bullshit. You know, not to say, like, you're talking about like different perspectives and stuff like that. I like having discussions. I like differing viewpoints,
Mhm.
and having debates and whatnot. But like, that's one thing. I'm talking about, putting up with like people's bullshit. And it's like,
Yeah, but it all
no,
comes down to what we talked about earlier, respect, right?
yeah,
If it's not respectful, then I'm not going there. I'm going to say no. And it comes down to human rights too, because if you think that um, you can gain your freedoms by taking away my rights, I'm going to fight you on that.
yeah,
Right? It's
yeah.
a fine line. And I think we as a community, I think the pagan community, and I'm going to get a little political here
Mhm.
because I can't help it, we have to start advocating for our rights too. Because, in a lot of cases, people that I know who work for the public school system, whatever, at least I have an employer that is totally open to me being a heathen. But there's other people that can't.
Yeah,
And are still going through that barrier. And
yeah.
so, I have a problem, saying to folks who don't believe we have that right that we do. Because
Mhm.
I don't like it, that whole attitude that I'm this way, so I'm the select group, and you whatever. That really pisses me off. And it's like
Yeah.
we have to become a little bit more empowered as a group to kind of stand up and say, yeah, well, I should have the same rights that you do. It's called equity.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. And I mean, we are lucky here in Canada with the rights that we do have, with freedom to practice whatever religion we want, or not, as the case may be. But it's not absolute, and it's not so impervious to hate that there's still a lot of work to be done. Look at the niqab ban in Quebec, for example.
mhm,
you know and it's the religious symbols ban, but it was born out of um uh anti-Muslim hate, and wanting to ban the niqab, because if it wasn't, because I don't think I think this part of it was dropped, I believe, but I know when the the provincial government there in Quebec first proposed this, you, women wearing niqabs wouldn't even have been allowed to get on public transit wearing a niqab. They would have had, or face covering. So they would have had to take off their face coverings to get on public transit. So you can't tell me that it's a religious symbols ban because of what it was born out of. So that's still possible. The rights, as much rights as we have in Canada, stuff like that is still possible. There was a woman who she had, her pagan shrines and whatnot in her backyard. The neighbors didn't like it, and the city was like, "You have to take them down, or we're going to fine you." You know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah, I do. I remember. I'm acquainted with her actually, and I know her story. And me doing what I do for a living, I was able to pull up all the legislation. Because yeah, we do have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms in
Yeah,
Canada.
yeah,
So, sometimes you just have to remind people about what that is.
yeah.
So, and like I said, I think it's just something I'm very impassioned about is having equity.
Mhm.
As far as people that are heathen or Wiccan or Satanists or across the board. It's like, people shouldn't feel that they have that barrier.
Yeah,
Um, but that's another discussion for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
I could just discuss it at some other point. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, university, Evelyn with her mohawk.
Yeah,
So,
I think I got rid of it by then. I think it was just really short hair, but I kept Doc Martens. I still have Doc Martens. I will. They're great for gardening, actually. Um, and I haven't changed inside. You know what I mean? I'm still that, like I listen to a lot of, I still listen to the old punk. I
mm,
listen to a lot of folk metal because to me, I started exploring pagan metal, right? And then that kind of went to folk metal because a lot of folk metal music, they sing about the gods,
right.
or sing about the mythology. And so, I've become I'm really enjoying listening to music. I was really kind of snobby back when I was in my band, right? Because I thought my music was the best and
Hmm.
the music. And as I get older, like there you go, that gift of wisdom saying, there's so much out there. There's some really cool stuff going on right now.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I'm totally enjoying that too.
cool. So, like, at what point did you start exploring paganism, and like, and what did that look like? I mean, because like a lot of people, when you ask them about, you know, uh, when they first get into paganism, it's always, especially like people in the 80s and 90s, it's always like, oh, Wicca, blah 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 blah, and they're still Wiccan, or they moved on to something else. So, what was that like for you?
It wasn't that for me. Like for Wicca, I knew about Wicca. I mean, it's just, but coming from the Catholic background with all the ritual, totally not for me.
Right.
Right. I just knew that, no. And, I also, had the Irish background, I had the Irish and the English background. And I looked at Druidism for a while, and a lot of the tenets of it I thought are great. And I still really respect the Druidic path, but it still didn't resonate.
Were you affiliated with any Druid organizations?
No,
Okay.
mm-mm,
Okay.
no. I just basically knew a lot of folks that followed that path. And so if I was hanging out with people, it'd be more people of the Druidic path than the
Okay.
Wiccans. Because I just have this aversion to a lot of ritual, or, it's just because I found the Druidic tradition is connect, like boom,
Yeah.
there you go. You're
Yeah.
there, right? And you don't need as much
So you
tools to
don't
get there. Yeah.
you don't really like, your style isn't like the formality of ritual, and that's just not your cup of tea.
Yeah. So even as a heathen, I would say that where I am now is I make offerings to the gods, and in a lot of cases it's Norse or predominantly Anglo-Saxon.
Mm.
Uh, and it's offerings. I love fire. So I'm a bit of a pyro, but it's all outside and it's all safe. But off. So my husband and I, whenever we have a meal, whatever, and we decide to have a fire, we make up a meal,
Okay.
and that goes into the fire as an offering, usually to our ancestors and to the land rights, um, and to the gods. So I mean, but it's very simple. Like it's just we don't say a lot. We just, this is for whoever. Um, so I guess I've always been a simple, basic as far as my practice.
Mm.
It's very important for me to be connected with my ancestors. I think that's a lot of my journey lately, is to connect with the beloved dead,
Hmm.
and to take on more of a um, shamanic path. And I hate using shamanic because that word's become a bad word, because
Yeah.
actually it's an anthropological term, really.
Mhm.
And it was something that, I think a lot of people think of the indigenous people as shamanic, but I think it's actually, from what I believe, um, something that was put on them. It anthropologically, this shamanic activity throughout the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I'm just really interested in shamanism from my ancestral path.
Hmm.
So, being English and Irish, and I had the DNA test, and it's hilarious. Like you're like, was it 98% British? So
Right. Right. Right.
probably taking the test, right? So, so many, but anyways, it's just because, but I digress. It's like I guess I'm just not somebody who's heavily into ceremony. There is certain things that I do, but that's just my personal, and I never tell anybody what to do. I'm
Mhm.
also heavy into that because when people ask me, um, how should I set up my altar? How should I make an offering to the gods? And I'll say, you know what? I want you to discover that yourself. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Let many people tell me what to do. And then you get, that's where people, I think, get preyed upon or victimized by people who are experts, or people who are this, or say they're the high grand poobah of whatever.
Yeah.
I always want to make sure that people, I'll answer certain questions, but I always turn it back to them, saying, what are you comfortable with? What
Hmm.
do you feel resonates with you? Because I'm not going to tell you what to do,
Yeah.
and I just, that's me. And it's just,
So,
um,
eh, um, what makes a person a heathen? Like, if there's not like a set of ritual practices that says, okay, you do these ritual practices, you're a heathen. You know what I mean? Um,
well,
so
there's certain paths that are very specific in the heathen community. So there are certain groups that are very specific, and do offerings or blots at certain times of the year.
did you just
uh,
say plots?
blot blot, which
What's
is
that?
BLOT. So that is more of the traditional offering, and it usually had to do with the sacrifice of an animal and using the blood, to you put it around certain places,
Right.
as an offering to the gods. So some do that. I obviously don't, because I'm by myself. I'm sure the bylaw officers would love it. Um, coming by this small town, Ontario. So
Yeah.
there was a heathen in her family, and they were doing this thing called a blot, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just, so if I was with another group, I would participate in those things and in offerings. And there's about 3 or 4 times a year that are really important, to have those, or to get together, or to recognize. So there are some heathen communities that are quite organized and
Yeah.
have religious leaders, but I don't have that because I'm here by myself.
Yeah.
And I think I probably like that anyways,
Yeah.
because I'm somebody who likes to do my own thing.
Yeah.
So
I think like what I meant to say was you don't have to do like have a specific set of ritual
no,
practices
I
to be
think it's
even.
people
So, you
yeah.
know, so when people like approach you with questions, like you said, you turn it back on them and you're like, well, what are you comfortable with doing? What feels right to you? So what defines someone as heathen? Um is it working with like those particular gods that would say, okay, you're heathen? You know what I mean?
hmm This is a tough one because I have some people that have incredible historical knowledge, and I usually refer to them because these are people that are scholars.
Oh, your sound just cut out. Can you hear me? Oh, you just froze. Okay, I don't. Okay, I still can.
But
Okay, your sound cut out there and then you froze. So you were talking about scholars and then the sound cut out.
okay,
So if you want to go back.
sure. So, I mean, that's a question where I can give you my personal opinion, but there's some people that I really admire who spend all their time, who are scholars, who have the historical data on heathenism, and and I prefer that. I'm also a person that likes to have a history, to have some type of written work
Mhm.
that talks about past heathen practices. So as a heathen, my path, I tend to try to be as historically accurate as possible, because that's how to be in reverence to my ancestors and the way that they did things. So that's part of it too, is the historical knowledge that we have about heathenism, from the Germanic traditions and also from the Anglo-Saxon traditions. So I take a lot of my practice from what I've read. I've done a lot of research, um, but I don't think anyone's forced to. I think that's what I like about it. People, you can either do your own thing, which I kind of do because I have to, because I'm geographically isolated.
Right.
It's a Darwin term, isn't it? But anyways, another thing. I'm such a geek, I know. Maybe I read too much.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think I never felt that someone said you have to, join this group, or you have to. No one's ever told me that.
Yeah.
Like other traditions have. I said, well, you've got to join my coven. I'm like, no. Uh, your first mistake was telling me what I had to
Mhm.
do.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's why I'm more comfortable in the heathen past, because the people that take themselves too seriously, there's enough of us to just say, you know this is my path, this is where I'm going, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
So like someone could consider themselves a heathen, um, so they're doing their own thing. They're just figuring out their thing, what works for them, what they're happy with doing. Um, but if say they're working with like the Anglo-Saxon gods, Norse gods, and they're like, okay, I'm a heathen. And
mhm.
that's valid, correct?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's many different ways to heathenism,
Yeah.
and there's many different types of heathenism, right? It's just it's such a big umbrella,
Okay.
so that's why it's not easy for me to say, well, this is it, because then we'd be going back to the very rigid nature of certain religions. You know what I mean? So I mean, that's the thing. It's very diverse. Heathenism within itself is very, very, very diverse. But I think the basic tenets are that belief in the gods, and a belief in the land spirits and the water spirits and the ancestors. Ancestors are very important, and family, and frith, which is, my definition of frith is being good human beings and
Okay.
treating others in your community with respect, and trying to do things not just for yourself but
Mhm.
for others. So that, to me personally, is how I want to live my life as a heathen. Is to take care of other people too,
Yeah.
and be aware of my community and who needs. And maybe that's why I have a background in social services, because I've always worked with people with barriers, and um, and that's probably why I have a big respect for Thor, because he's a protector of the people. So people that can't fight back, people that can't advocate for themselves.
Mhm.
So I mean, I identify with that too because of my background in social services. I worked with people um, with mental health challenges. I worked with people with developmental disabilities. So it makes sense, that I identify with gods and with an approach to life, community, and thrift, that I don't leave those people behind. Those people
Right.
are important to me. And I think as a heathen, it's an honorable thing um, to fight for those people.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm
Now,
going to get all emotional.
oh, so okay, let's jump off that then. Uh, is so did you enter, like, was heathenry your path going into paganism, or did you wait around through paganism and find your way?
I waited,
Okay.
definitely.
Oh, right, because
Um,
you started talking about Druidry a bit.
yeah. And certain things, I think it's just the trees.
Mm,
I got this thing about trees, but the whole, I mean, like I said, I was just very intrigued by it. Read a lot of things about it, but at the same time, I just thought, it's just not resonating with me, right? It's just I'm not where I am needing to be,
mm.
and it's only been probably in the last uh, maybe 6 or 7 years that I've totally immersed myself in heathenry, right?
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I just floundered for a long time. What I said to people was just I'm eclectic,
Right.
right? Because I really didn't want to be pigeonholed, but I
Mhm.
still didn't know
Yeah.
um where I belonged. And um now I think when I started my business, that evolved too. And once I started working in the garden and being a gardener, all of that stuff all kind of came together. And it's like, I'm an herb woman. And what does that mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
It connects me with my ancestors. And I finally felt an affinity with people that had gone before, and started having images in my mind of those people and wanting to continue those traditions. I
Yeah.
think is important in heathenry too, is to continue the good things that your ancestors did.
Right.
The
I think
whatever.
that's where we're lucky with paganism, though, because it's sort of like, and just using paganism as an umbrella term, of course, just kind of like throwing everything, you know, pre-Christian European in there just for ease.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the benefits that we have with paganism is you don't necessarily feel like you're floundering or lost as you're wading through different ideas and traditions in paganism, because there's so many common threads, and you're
Hmm.
still doing, like, you can be doing ancestor work and call yourself a druid, and then transition and still do ancestor work and call yourself a heathen. So
Hmm.
you know I think the people that end up feeling lost, and again, this is a generalization and I don't like to generalize, but reality, our words, our language is limiting. I think that people that that find themselves sort of lost or floundering tend to be the type that are either very rules based or used to a rules based system where they're like, I need to know, I need that structure, or they think they need that structure and that rules, and you have to do this, this, and this in order to call yourself this, or that, which is fine. You know, like there are traditions out there. You want to be like a Wiccan, like a Gardnerian. You actually join a Gardnerian coven and go through that training, or, you know, Golden Dawn or whatever. So I'm not saying like that's a bad thing, like
Some
like
people need that. Some people, and
absolutely,
we
yeah,
talked about tools. Some people need those tools to get
yeah,
where they need to go.
yeah,
In my case, I don't need a lot of tools.
yeah, yeah. So I think
Yeah.
we definitely have benefits, pagans, that we just eh, we don't we never necessarily have to feel lost or floundering, as long as we're doing the work in whatever form we happen to be doing it in, um yeah. I joined OBOD back in 2006 because Georgery completely resonated with me. I joined a Gardnerian coven probably almost 10 years before that, and back then um I was doing my first degree, and I didn't finish for two reasons. I ended up moving to Ottawa for work, but also it wasn't really resonating with me. I found it too ceremonial, and you know what I mean.
I know.
And
That's
which is funny because so I ended up joining OBOD, and I really there's definitely with OBOD because modern Druidry comes out of Druid traditions that are very Masonic Lodge like, so there's definitely those elements there, but with OBOD there's a lot more like freedom to kind of like figure things out for yourself. And one thing that really resonated with me with Druidry, like I wanted like rolling around in the dirt paganism, and Druidry gave me that opportunity. So it's kind of funny because with my whole like, oh, this Wicca isn't working for me, it's too ceremonial, because I also practice the Golden Dawn system of magic, which is very, ritualized and so it's kind of like coming around full circle a bit. But it works. I can do my Druidry plus my Golden Dawn. They can blend very well together. They can also be very separate and different, but it works.
I think my internet is crapping out again.
Well, you froze again there.
Yeah, it's like
Did 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 I cut out? Did my sound cut out for you at all?
yeah, just for a little bit. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay.
that's okay.
No, I was just talking about just how I went from Wicca to Druidry to starting the Golden Dawn, and how because the Golden Dawn is so structured and so ritualized, which is funny because back in the day, Wicca wasn't appealing to me because I found it too ceremonial and structured, and so it's just kind of funny. Like I literally went full circle back to where I started in a sense,
But that's okay. It's like
Oh, absolutely.
it's like what
Absolutely.
resonates with you. I'm gonna talk about how I envision well how my journey is. It's like when you go to a dinner party and you go from person to person and you try to see what their interests are and so you work in the room trying
Mhm.
to find somebody that you have something in common with. So I worked the room for quite a while until I found my people or I found my path. So it was the world's longest dinner party. And yeah,
At least there was wine.
yeah, or a tub of beer. But
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. So it's just, you know, and I'm an overthinker anyway, so it's taken me a long time to get where I am because I just like to think too much. I just like to
Right.
go, hmm, and um, but it's been a happy journey because I think I had to have a lot of painful things happen to me before I got here.
Hmm.
So I lost my brother, my youngest brother died, um, and that I think put me in a spiritual spiral. Right,
Right.
that was before I came to Heathenry,
Okay.
and um, dealing with him dying suddenly led to me coming to the Heathen Path
Okay.
because my brother is now part of my beloved dead, and I
Mhm.
know he's here, and I know I have a connection with him
Right.
that I didn't have when I was following any other paths. And so he's always been incorporated into our offerings, my husband and I. Um, from the moment a loved one passes, they go, there's an offering in the next Friday that we have. So,
Okay. Okay.
so I think losing my brother, who was also a master gardener,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So that spurred me on to start gardening. And so much, that's why people always say, it's horrific when someone dies. And it's like, yeah, it is. And it was a really horrible thing. But I got so many gifts from that, right?
Hmm.
And that so I had all these little things along the way that kind of nudged me towards this, but it was my brother's death that got me where I am now.
Did you do any gardening before he died?
No, nope, nope.
Do you think that's and like is he, in your opinion, is he as beloved dead, his energy or however you want to define it, do you think that is influencing you at all?
I think so, and I think he's also connected me to my ancestors.
Okay. Okay.
Right, become the conduit, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So he's opened up the other for me.
Okay.
I was closed to the other before my brother died. I didn't. I, I was afraid of death, like most of us are,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to go there, right? And I had to go to some really uncomfortable places. And his death led me to going down and going into the other and thinking about that next journey and thinking about the people that have gone before me. And I lost my father recently, and and now he is part of that. Like, I'm still struggling with it because he died during a pandemic, and
Okay.
but we were able to be with him, so that was a blessing. He had a
Yeah.
wonderful long-term care facility where the staff were excellent. But my dad, British, laughing, always had and it was really hard too, but it was my brother dying made it a little bit easier for me because I knew my dad was going to be with the others that are going to be there to guide me. And then, when it's my turn, there's going to, everybody's going to be there. And I think that even in paganism, we still don't want to talk about death. I mean, because it's just a really unknown territory,
Yeah.
and we have to go into uncomfortable places in order to grow and evolve. I really believe that. I think you
Hmm.
have to
Oh,
work,
absolutely. Yeah.
and I think that's why I'm now on the heathen path, because it's nurtured me throughout all of this. It,
Right.
it really has. And being analytical and kind of a scientific mind also, I know everything is rational now. Everything makes sense to me, so I don't have to overthink things now. Now I just go into the flow, when before I used to just stop myself because I just overthink about it,
Right. Right. Right.
think about it, and it's like, well, that's not going to help you connect. You have to, like, do the work. So I can safely say that people can find their path in their 50s for sure.
Oh
It
yeah,
took
absolutely.
me that long. It took me that long to get where I needed to go. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to more, I guess.
Yeah. Did you have a moment where you, because talking about being like an overthinker, which I definitely am. Um, did you have a moment where you finally kind of like just like accepted everything, like about like your heathen path and the ancestor work and to the point where you're just like I don't have to think about things anymore. I don't have to rationalize things anymore. I I've I fully accept my beliefs and I don't have to worry. Kind of like, like that weight comes off your chest, like I'm free to not worry, think, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely, because I think it's when I started my business. Um, and I didn't really do it to make tons of money because I have a very good paying job, right?
Mhm.
I have excellent benefits, and so it's not like, hey, let's start a business so, I can make lots of money because
Mhm.
and I still don't do that. Even in my business, my principles guide me of being a socialist and keeping things fair for people so they can afford things is really
Right.
important. That's the reason why I started my business, is because I thought people were being charged way too much for um, spiritual wares.
Mhm.
I didn't like the exploitation part of it. So, I mean, that my political beliefs, unfortunately, it's going to come up again, are
Mhm.
part of my business plan too. That, you know, I'm not going to be a millionaire because I'm focused on people being able to afford the things they need, especially people that live in cities that do not have access to the herbs and the plants that I have.
Yeah.
So, this is one way to, once again, thrift the community, take care of people, offer them something in an honest manner. And that's one of my business principles. But I think being able to work with the herbs, that's when it all goes. When I'm out there in that garden or when I'm making things,
Mhm.
it's like that's the divinity right there.
Yeah.
Those are the divine moments where I am just, you know, got these things and I'm smelling them and they're so beautiful. And then you look at just the clover, it looks so beautiful, and the red roses and everything and all these wonderful things. Those are pure emotions. That's emotive moments. Those are like when you're not thinking, you're feeling. And that I never had before.
Yeah.
So I have it now. And that's when I'll have one of the gods whisper to me, like, I told you so. Because, I'm the overthinker, right? So I
Yeah.
have some that like to like give me heck because, I always would fight on things. You'd have to drop a 5-ton weight on my head before I would say, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I think the whole starting my business on the side and then wanting to provide heathen wares for folks that maybe can't afford them. I try, like I said, I try to keep it reasonable. I try to keep it as authentic as possible. I really um, just think it's important. I like to share that with people. I like to share my knowledge,
Mhm.
and that I don't have a problem with. I can give them the knowledge, but like once again, it's like you decide what you want to do with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, but I think it's just playing, like you said, rolling around in the dirt,
Mhm.
you know, playing in the dirt, being outside, you know, I've gotten really good with a shovel in a good way and tools and just being part of that creative process and looking forward to the seasons. I'm so attuned with the seasons now.
Mhm.
I never was before, and I'm so attuned with the moon. Um, and because what I do with my herbal oils when I make them is I make them on the full moon. So, and I give them a month to kind of marinate in a dark cupboard for a month. So from full moon to full moon is when I make my herbal oils.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a great way to have a reminder that you've got a month to make these, and then at the end of that cycle, so, and I don't even think about it anymore. It's like, okay, well, it's time to make some herbal oil. So, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I mean, with with my business, with the stuff that I make, I 100% get what you're saying, especially with my loose incense, because I love like the textures and the different colors and the mixing. I just love stirring, you
it's
know.
I call it a herbal medley, right?
Yeah.
So, and then just coming.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Lux Files. I'm not just the host of this podcast, I'm also the owner of Lelo Gonzalez. I make beeswax and scented spell candles, loose stick and liquid incense, anointing oils, and bath salts. So once you're done listening to this episode, why don't you head on over to my website at www.lelogonzalez.com and check out my products. For your convenience, the link to the website is also in the show notes.
From the musical background, it's a symphony. It is.
Yeah.
It's almost like music. When you've created an incense, it's just wow. You look at all the colors, scents. It's like, okay, well, that, that yeah. And there's not, like I said, it's emotive. I don't know. I can't describe it. It's just, and I just know that I'm doing something that I don't have to think. I just do.
Yeah. Well, I also come from the cosmetics world. So, things like I'm really particular with, my incense blends in particular out of everything, because working with like resins, woods, oils, and leaves and petals and whatnot, because they all burn differently and different woods burn slower or quicker or whatever. You have like such a good opportunity to create such a dynamic smelling product that evolves and transforms like a perfume, so that's why I'm so particular about how I create my loose incenses. And it's kind of mind-boggling to me, because I'll see people selling like a tin of loose incense, an ounce worth, and for $30. I'm like, that. And I look at the ingredient list, I'm like, that cost you, let's be generous and say they don't have a wholesale account with the herb supplier, $2.50 tops, and you want to charge $30. Like, you're ripping people off.
And I talked about that earlier, how that's another thing that spurred me, because I met so many young people just coming into paganism, like, we're like saying, can I use kitchen spices, or because I can't really afford that, or I want that, and you know I can't handle people that exploit people.
Yeah. You know what?
That are vulnerable, I just can't handle it.
For all of my beautiful products, if you can't afford shit, get a twig and a leaf and burn that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, get a leaf and a twig, and there's your incense. I mean,
this is genuine,
yeah.
And that's what I say to people. Don't feel bad. Don't do this shaming thing,
Yeah.
You get that. And it's like, okay, so now we have mass consumerism in paganism.
Yeah.
No, that people shouldn't. And once again, it's people who don't have money, right? And they feel like that. And it's like, yeah. So I get kind of, when I see the exploitation, I just like, but at the same time, we need to make back our costs and make back a little bit of profit, right? For sure.
Of course, absolutely. I mean,
but
there's nothing
when you're looking at it, they're kind of like being the Amazon of pagan products, because that's ridiculous,
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, that's, but
There's
You know,
nothing wrong with making profit off of your work. You know what I mean? It's when
mhm.
it's just that excessive, it's just it drives me nuts because I just feel it's so exploitative.
Yeah, and a lot of people when they're just starting out, or even people that aren't just starting out, feel that they absolutely have to have these things in order to be valid, and in order, and then they end up getting themselves in financial problems because they purchase things that that maybe they shouldn't. So I
Yeah,
mean, it's just I try to be ethical. I'm a very ethically driven person,
yeah,
and I try to be mindful of other people's situations, and you know, any business decisions I make, I have to think, is this going to be damaging for people, and is
mhm,
this fair? And it's
yeah,
so you know, like I said, that's part of heathenry tree. The heathenry, that perspective too, is to be mindful of the community, and to give, but I mean, not to give away. I mean, I don't, but
yeah,
um, I want to be able to offer people something that's meaningful,
yeah,
rather than the Gucci of
yeah. Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
like pagan 7-Eleven. I mean, I'm not a pagan 7-Eleven, or Walmart, or don't get me started on that
no,
stuff. But
no.
it's just, you know,
I mean,
um,
there's some exotic ingredients out there that cost a lot of money. Mastic is ridiculously expensive. Dragon's blood is expensive. Like there are ingredients that if you're using them in
mhm,
an incense, it's going to be a higher price incense for sure. But when it's like frankincense, sandalwood, and myrrh, and you're charging $30 for a little bag, like you're exploiting people. And the people that um like, oh, buy my $50 wealth candle. Well, if anyone needs a wealth candle, they probably don't have $50 to spend on a wealth candle. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I just, yeah, it is bothersome. And in a way, that's why I'm glad, like I have three distributors that sell my products here in the States and Australia, and my products are in so many like metaphysical stores, and I'm glad for that because they're relatively inexpensive,
Mhm.
and it gives a good
And they're authentic too. Yeah,
yeah, it gives a good,
so
well, first of all, it gives a good alternative to like hem made in China synthetic
yeah, I was gonna go there. So yeah,
incense, and
like
and then the
those
the
witch kits that are made in China. I'm like, are you for real?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Because
So,
okay, not just to mention that it's my concern is more for like what type of chemicals and harmful toxic materials are in those things, because China's not known for being really rigid with its health and safety regulations, right?
yeah,
So, yeah, but
yeah, exactly,
it's
exactly.
like, I mean, and I am a certified health and safety rep, I'll have you know. So I follow all the health and safety
Yeah,
practices when I'm doing my work here. So, because this is going into people's homes,
yeah,
and come on.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What's your favorite thing to make?
Hmm. I would say it is herb bundles.
Okay.
Yeah, because it changes all the time. It depends. Like you'll find when you have a garden that one year you'll have one crop that does really well. And the next year it doesn't want to work. It doesn't come out at all. There's
Right.
different conditions, but you have something else. So it's like, okay, so I have dill, I have fennel, I've got some clover here. So I can always change. It's always, and I really enjoy also introducing people to our traditions, in that we did herb cleansing too, and that we cleansed our areas and same things, and that we have traditions with burning herbs in cast iron pans and all those things. So I enjoy creating the herb bundles, and giving people the experience of how different herbs smell, because
Hmm.
actually burning dill is not as horrific as people think. Actually, it smells really good.
Right.
And, so I really like doing the herb bundles. That's one of my favorite things. Um, and it's really good, at least for my creativity or what I think I'm gonna make next. So I get excited, like, oh wow, I got a bumper crop of this year,
Hmm.
and then I grew my woad, like last year was my first year of doing the woad, and it's a really interesting plant in that back in medieval times they used it to dye clothing, right?
Hmm.
So it was big. It means it was used by the Norse, by the Anglo-Saxons in Europe, used woad to dye everything.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting plant.
How did that turn out
Great. Well, the
for
first
you?
year is just a floret, right? So it's just the leaves the first year. So that's when you do the dyeing is in the first year, right?
Yeah.
And then the second year you get it so that it flowers. There's these yellow flowers that turn into seeds. So it's self-seeding. The plant dies after 2 years. So after its second year, it produces seeds to self-propagate. And
Okay.
as its swan dive, it dies. It's a sad story, but it's been really interesting to grow a medieval herb, and I'm going to start doing more because I produced my own seeds. I'm such a geek. I got so excited about creating my own seeds, my woad seeds, so I'll be able to plant. Like that's my excitement, and that's another thing with connecting with the divinity of nature, the wonder of this. I was able
Mhm.
to create this, and this is so cool. And I'll be able to get, to offer these seeds to people who want to do it themselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm geeking out. I am like an herb geek, I guess. And I guess I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
Uh, and just doing those things. And so I'm going to try a different crop next year. I'm going to do woad again from the seeds, but
Right.
I'm also going to try, some more medieval um, plants. And actually, I've been getting into medieval music lately too. So that's another interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Coming
So
from punk rock past, now all of a sudden I'm listening to medieval music, right? But it was probably the punk rock of the day. So
there you go. Yes. Yeah, it must be. Absolutely. So you're sort of like, well, building may not be the right word. You're creating a medieval garden.
mhm.
So like what defines a medieval garden?
Well, for me, I am just, doing my research and growing the herbs that people used for everyday life
Mhm.
back in, the Norse Anglo-Saxon times. I'm probably, thinking from 500 AD to 800 AD,
Okay.
you know. So that's just my pet project is just the things that people used.
Yeah.
The things that people
I
used
would imagine that like
or,
even in, say like Western Europe and whatnot, all, very similar climate-ish, you know what I mean? Um, I would think that through, the ages, there's a lot of plants that each culture from era to era would use continuously, but
Mhm.
I would
Yeah,
think that there were some plants that kind of
migrated.
but became popular usage and maybe fell out of favor. You know what I mean? Like there's like if you think of, oh, did you freeze again? Yeah, you froze again. I don't know if you could hear me. I'll
Yeah.
just okay, there we go.
Mhm.
So
I can
so
hear you. Yeah.
I I would imagine that if someone studied um you know gardening from 500 AD to 2000 AD, you'd see a lot of plants coming in and out of style. So if you're focusing on like 500 to 800 AD, that may be a very different garden than, say, 1500 AD. You're frozen again. You country, you country folk and your internet.
Yes, I know. But okay, so like I said, the medical knowledge changed at that point in time. So a lot of the herbs, you know, that I'm growing were used at that time, like especially the 9 herbs charm. I grow all the things that are the 9 herbs charm in the Anglo-Saxon tradition. So, and a lot of them are medicinal on purpose. So I mean, that's another thing. It's like, you know, there's also different herbs that they had that they put on the floor of their homes to get rid of the pests.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of research involved. So that's why I've been, you know, reading a lot, but also connecting with a lot of people with historical knowledge and picking their brains. And but it's really kind of funny because now a lot of people think I have all this knowledge of medieval herbs, and it's like, no.
Nope. What's the 9 herbs charm?
What is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's basically, it is based on an old Anglo-Saxon prayer that has Woden's 9 sacred herbs, but there's also some Christian terms in it too. So some people get pissed off because they'll say, well, you're quoting something that's Christian. It's like, well, you know, interestingly enough, there were heathens and Christians at the same time, and the turnover to Christianity took a little bit longer in Anglo-Saxon communities. So there is talk of Woden. There's also talk of Christian concepts in the 9 herbs charm poem. But basically, they're the 9 herbs of Woden that are to cure things. So it's you know, for magical purposes, but it's also for healing purposes. They're the, you know, plantain and chamomile and watercress and things that we know now they have great medicinal value. Back then, you would use these herbs, you know, for people that were ill, and there were some that were used for elf shot. That's another story because you know, in the Anglo-Saxon tradition, there's the belief of the elves.
Right.
You could be suffering from elf shot because, you know, the elves would shoot you with their arrows. So some of the 9 herbs charms could help with elf shot, and so there's so much. I mean, I could go on for days, and these are things just that I'm learning now, and it's a good thing there's translations of Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah.
Because I'd be totally lost. And right now I'm teaching myself Old English. I'm trying to learn how to speak Old English. So
That's fun.
That's my next thing. It's just, okay, can she get any geekier? Yes, I can.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, you know, when you mentioned about like Anglo-Saxons and Christians, and it took longer for the conversion, and it's like, oh, they really were the original European rebels, and you were a punk, and it just all fits. You were meant to be a heathen.
I think so. And I think I'm going back to my Anglo-Saxon tradition.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my Irish mother, I think she feels she's failed because, you know, it's that whole thing. It's like my mom always believed that because she was Irish mother, we were all 100% Irish. My poor dad, he's like, what about me?
Yeah.
It's like, and I did try to resonate with the Celtic gods and goddesses,
Yeah.
but there wasn't just didn't work.
Your mother's like, but they raided Ireland. How dare you?
Oh, well, yeah, because then we can talk about Dublin and how Dublin was taken over, and because that's what I say to her. I was like, well, maybe we have Viking blood because we're from that area. No. Oh no.
I have a friend, and you know, British background, and she's Canadian, but you know, English background, and was, you know, like very anti-Celt. You know, Celts are down here. You know, English blood is up here. Well, wouldn't you know it with, these at-home DNA tests, and wouldn't you know it, she had more Celt in her than this good English blood. And I loved, of course, she didn't tell anyone.
Of course not.
She didn't tell anyone. So I'm at her place, and her mother was in town visiting. And I don't know how we got on I don't know. Maybe talking about me being a druid and Celtic stuff. I don't know. And her mother let it slip that they were like way more Celtic than Anglo. And Dana my friend was horrified, and but kind of like not traumatic or anything like that, but we had a good laugh over that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still have an affinity with certain Celtic god and goddesses, because actually Hearn the Hunter is that dude is just awesome. I just like, if you would say, I've always had an affinity with Hearn the Hunter too, and it's really another aha moment is
but Hearn is Gaulish Celt as opposed to like Welsh, you know what I mean? So he's just across the river from you Saxons, so it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So like, but like I said, it just, in the end, it's what resonates with you. And it's like, and the old English is coming along pretty well, except there's a whole bunch of people that speak it really, really well. And I'm in this beginners group, and it's like hilarious because there's actually groups on Facebook.
Really?
For people to learn Old English.
Wow.
It's amazing because some of these people are just like doing whole sentences and stuff, and I don't even know how. I'm working on good evening, how are you, and they're like just doing whole poems, and I'm gonna do Chaucer's piece here in Old English. I'm like, what?
So you can say like good evening.
Yes, I can say a few other things. I'm learning, as I go along. So
what's good evening in Old English?
I don't want to do it because the pronunciation, I'm still working on it, and I don't want to embarrass, because they will go after me. Those people, they will go. You can't, no, in a good way. They'll just say, "You're not representing us. You didn't say it right."
Yeah.
I'm a new student right now, and I don't want to, upset my teacher. But I'm really happy that I'm doing it. So
it's bonjour.
It's I guess I could do a useful skill and learn how to speak French, but no, I didn't. I chose not.
Why speak French?
It's because of those French kids that beat me up.
Those bastards beat you up.
So, oh my gosh. So I don't know. This has been full circle. You did get me talking.
I told you I would. I mean, that's what I do. That's what I do.
Like a lot of stuff. I'm like, I haven't really talked about that stuff a lot. Some things yeah. So, wow. I feel tired now.
So, this is something I want to ask you. Did we ever meet at a Occulticon?
No.
Oh, you never went? Or we never met?
Do I have a doppelganger?
No, I was just wondering. Because I was kind of racking my brain, because I mean that's going back quite a few years now. I'm like, did Evelyn and I ever meet?
I wanted to go, I really did, but it just never happened.
It was short-lived, a Culticon. Well, no, most people that listen to my podcast are in the States, so they're not going to know what a Culticon is. A Culticon was a very short-lived like pagan magic festival, and it was an outdoor festival. It wasn't like a convention in a hotel or anything, and it took place in Ontario, here in Canada, Southern Ontario, at a place called Mythwood Campground. And you would have Loved this place.
I know. Well, I want to go to Raven's Knoll too. That's one
It,
place I want to go.
oh, Ravens Knoll, that's where Kaleidoscope
Hmm.
happens.
Hmm.
So I went to Occulticon. The first year of Occulticon only lasted 2 years, 2017 and 2018.
It's because I wanted to go. That's why I didn't last.
Oh, it's your fault.
Yeah.
And I came across Occulticon on Facebook, and it's okay. So it's a 16-hour drive for me, 'cause
Hmm.
with me being up in Thunder Bay. So I don't know what it, it was meant to be, especially with all like the people that I met and have stayed friends with. So obviously it was meant to be, but for me to see this ad for a festival that's never happened and that's 16-hour drive away and be like, yeah, I should definitely pack up all of my products and drive 16 hours. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, it was a, I mean, I was going to say it was a bit of a gamble because what if no one showed up? I would have made no money and, would have made less money than what it paid, like my vendor fee. But, uh, a little vacation's a little vacation. Plus, I get to see my friends down there. Anyways, Mythwood Campground is extraordinary. All the buildings are all like medieval kind of style.
Hmm.
There's a stage made out of wood that's looks like a castle, like crenellated walls and the towers, with the crenellations along the top of the towers and the walls. Um, a stone circle, like 100-foot diameter stone circle. All of these shrines, there's a small pond here and then a larger pond over here, and in the middle of that large pond is a small island with a sword in the stone. There's a pirate ship. There's a replica of Seahenge. It,
You gotta have a pirate ship. Okay.
yeah, it's such an amazing place. And there's like the seasonal campers like over here where they have their trailers, but the trailers have to be very like themey. Like one person built a wooden facade with crenellations across the trailer with a big tower that they could climb up. You know,
Hmm. Oh, wow.
oh,
That's beautiful.
extraordinary! It was such an extraordinary place. So you have like the permanent campers here, like their little village, and then here all like the day campers or the weekend campers, like those lots. And can't remember how many acres, less than 100, maybe like around 80 acres, something like that. I can't remember. So it's a big space, but beautiful, so beautiful with all, like I said, like the shrines, and you can just be walking and just discover this circle, the shrine. Oh, it was just so incredible. And it was such a wonderful experience at Culticon. Really good presenters and stuff. Now that I'm talking about it, like I have pictures of Mythwood on my Instagram, but again, this was back in 2017, 2018. So they're going to be so far down my Instagram. I'll have to repost the pictures, but it's such a beautiful place. So
Hmm.
beautiful. And they were planning for Occulticon 2019 to the point where like they were already selling, like I had paid for my vendor spot. And then they canceled Occulticon that year. And then of course rumors started flying like why uh
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And I never saw like an official, you know, explanation why it got canceled. And I can't remember. I feel like I heard this from a friend of mine who got it from the owner, that he was thinking of continuing with the cult of combat, like doing it in like a hotel, like more of like a indoor
Convention.
convention.
Yeah.
But then of
Mhm.
course, if 2000 rolls around, because this is fall of 2019. Then, of course, 2000 rolls around and we're in pandemic. So who knows what's going to happen? But everyone down there, they were like, oh, yeah, you got to go to Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope used to be the huge. It's not as big as what it was, but it's still pretty big, blah, 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 blah. And Wiccan Fest and Harvest Fest, which happens near Barrie, are other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I had quite the falling out with the organizers of Wiccan Fest and Harvest Fest, because when when COVID happened, they had their first Wiccan Fest online, and I attended, and everything was great. It was like a 2-day thing, I think, or a 1-day thing. I can't remember, but everything was great, and I was really looking forward to the last presentation. It was like death and ancestors and whatnot. I was so looking forward to that. Within the first, I don't know, 15 minutes, the presenter talking about like ancestors, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, and you faggots are always like, oh, we can't have children, and you don't have to worry about that. And and you faggots don't have to worry about that because ancestors aren't just blood, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and he had an accent. So I'm like, did I? And plus he was looking away from the camera at the time. And I'm like, did I just hear what I think I heard? And it was happening through Zoom, I think it was. And of course, you as you can't just record on Zoom unless you're like the host. But I thought I was going to miss the first few minutes of this one. So I just did like the voice recorder on my phone. And I forgot to turn it off because I didn't want to miss, because I was so looking forward to this presentation, and I forgot to turn it off. So I'm like, oh, I have it recorded. So I got out, I exited the meeting. I listened to it. I'm like, yep, he just said what I thought he said. I didn't want to go back in and then be like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I didn't want to ruin it for everybody. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to send a message to the organizers, blah, 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 blah. So of course they get back. So I tell them what happened. They're like, oh, we're gonna review the video. And they did the the copy and paste statement that all straight people and white people use about, oh, safe space, inclusion, da da da, blah 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 blah. We don't discriminate. Nothing. Hear nothing back from them. So 6 months later, they send me a message. Oh, follow our new social media account. So I respond back. I'm like, so 6 months ago, one of your presenters uses faggots to refer to gay men. I bring it to your attention. You do nothing. I don't hear from you up until you want me to follow your new social media account. Oh, we're so sorry you didn't get our message. I'm like, you can see the same messages. This is through Instagram. You can see the same thread of our messages. Like, you did not, you know what I mean? So blah, 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 da, 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 da. And, they're trying to, oh, well, it wasn't actually a big deal, blah, 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 blah. And he was self-identifying. So it turns out this guy's gay, but he didn't quote unquote sound it or look it or whatever. He certainly didn't identify himself as gay. You know what I mean? So all like 6 months ago, you could have been like, oh, he was self-identifying. But the point is, he wasn't self-identifying. He didn't call himself a faggot. He said, all of you faggots, in a professional setting. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's still unacceptable. And the fact that you completely brushed off this whole issue because he's gay, and you just like, well, it's a non-issue and we're not gonna get back to Sean because it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? So
I know, shut up and go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that pretty much ended my plans of attending Wiccan Fest and Harvest Fest. So yeah, so now I'm down to one. I'm down to Kaleidoscope if it comes back after pandemic.
Well, like I said, I want to attend some of the heathen events at Raven's once that's up and running again. So, because like I said, I'm in isolation,
Mhm.
but I know there's other people out there. And by the time I decided that I was going to go to some of these things, the pandemic,
Yeah, yeah,
like, okay, well, I'm going to go this year, but I'm going to go. And then it's like, yeah, but that's okay because it gave me more time to do some more stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some more self work and stuff like that. So, you can take away what you want from this last year, but the fact that we all haven't lost our minds is a good thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we haven't lost anybody to COVID. I'm thankful for that. So, and I'm looking forward to hopefully better times ahead for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I hesitate to talk about any positives coming out of this. There have been, for me personally, some positive aspects that came out of the pandemic and having to isolate, and you know what I mean. I don't mean to discount or minimize the hardships. I don't suggest that at all. I just, like, for me personally, there's been some good to come out of this, and I wonder, that's saying, like, you don't know what you have until it's gone. I wonder if we're going to have that kind of mentality once everything is pretty much open and back to normal, like being able to really truly appreciate.
A few of us will, but the rest, no. It's going to be back to self-entitlement, me, 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 me.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about anybody except myself. I hate to say it. It's
Yeah, no, yeah, I
you
mean,
know, I
yeah,
mean, it's and that, they're doing their own path. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know where they're going or where they're headed, but I'm not going there.
yeah,
Um, but I'm taking away some good things from this, and I'm thankful
mhm,
for being able to work from home
yeah,
um, during this. And like I said, my family is safe, so that's really important. And I've had time to spend with my family. I mean, it slowed things right down.
yeah,
I've had a lot more time to spend with my partner. We've been together for um 30 years. Yeah, it's been a while. Right? So I mean that's that's amazing because
mhm,
you go and you get crazy. You're both working and all of that stuff, and we've had more time. We still have two of our sons are still living at home. Our daughter is living in Windsor, but we've had more family time. And wow,
mhm,
you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
and some people are going crazy because they can't stand their family or whatever. And I'm sorry. And I also feel bad for people that are stuck in abusive relationships and can't
yeah,
get out.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's so many things to be thankful for right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
some of us will be enlightened from this, and then some, unfortunately, are just gonna go on being the way they are, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that is what wine is for, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. The true gift of the gods. Get
Oh.
them all out of. That's on my to-do list tomorrow. That's like the first thing I'm doing tomorrow is going to the liquor store. It's very important.
Do this is like something that I didn't know, but someone told me. I was talking to somebody, and she goes, "I'm going to the Lickbo," and I'm like, "Lickbo? What are you talking about?" She goes, "I'm going to the Lickbo to get a bottle of wine." I'm like, she goes, "The liquor store, Lickbo." I'm like, "Oh wow."
I've never heard anyone call it the Lickbow as opposed to the
I
LC.
guess it's a Windsor Essex thing, and I've been living in this since I graduated from Laurier. We moved down here in '90, but I guess other people say, yeah, we call it Lickbow down here. I'm like,
well, I mean, it is Windsor Essex. I mean, you know the chemicals they're inhaling down there, so
it's just hilarious, and it's like
the air. It's the air coming over from Detroit.
oh, maybe, but it's like, yeah.
The
So if you
brains.
want to stun and annoy people, tell them you're going to the Lickbow, and it'll take them 2 days to figure out what you're talking about.
I really don't see myself saying that to anyone. I'm going to the Lickbow. I mean, I just for some reason I feel that doesn't resonate with my personality.
Okay, so it's country mouse versus city mouse. Here we go. Yeah, I find it very funny.
That's weird. That's weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably a Windsor Essex County thing. So
now I support Doug Ford's effort to get rid of the liquor board. Just by hearing that, just so I never have to hear Lickbow again. I'm like, tear it all down, Dougie. Tear it all down. Tear it all down. Well, you're taking down all the windmills. You might as well tear down the liquor board as well.
Oh man.
Oh, and tearing down all the electric car charging stations too. So.
Oh man, that's another story.
Hey.
Well, I think I'm almost at the...
Hey, you elect a drug dealer to be premier. What do you expect's going to happen? You know,
yeah, well, you know, there was that whole thing about not opening the golf courses because of his buddies who drink the brown pop. That is like, I'm like, wow, I just didn't think you could go there. And because you really pissed off a lot of people with this golf course thing. And then you're talking about your buddies drinking irresponsibly, but they're drinking pop. I don't know. It's been a very special year.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
But on that note, I think I'm done. I'm kind of toast here. So
absolutely. So before we leave, you want to tell everyone that's listening or watching, because this video will be up on YouTube as well, where they can find your shop, where they can find you on social media, all that good stuff.
Okay, well, it's pretty simple. You can go to Etsy and just plug in the Herb Witch Shop, and that's where I sell my products. Go to Instagram under the Herb Witch Shop. You'll find me. Also, I'm on Twitter. Actually, that's where I collided with you.
Yes.
Happily.
Yeah.
So under the Herb Witch Shop, I'm really not that creative. So I have Facebook page also, the Herb Witch Shop. So I'm there, and there's also on Instagram. I have my personal Instagram where it's more my life as a heathen, and that is the Heathen Crone or Heathen Crone, and you're welcome to kind of look at the shenanigans I get down to here in the land of Lickbow.
So that's Heathen Crone?
I believe so. Let me look it up. See, I'm like, oh my gosh, do I even know? I think it is.
Because I don't think I'm following that account of yours.
Yes, it's the Heathen Crone. Is my personal Instagram, the life and times of the Heathen Crone.
Oh no, that's Heathen Crone Productions. Heathen Moon, Heathen Moon, the Heathen Crone.
The Heathen Crone.
Oh, I didn't put the. I just put Heathen Crone. Oh, there you are. Oh, exciting. Okay, so you have your both Instagram. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, and that one's more personal and just, you know, just being a heathen in the modern world.
Awesome.
You know, kind of like the Mary Tyler Moore of, no, I'm just kidding.
I love it.
I'm getting tired. So
Turn the world on with her smile as she throws an axe. As she throws an axe to your face.
Oh, gosh. You are
like
not good for me. You are.
like
I don't think putting the both of us in real time in a room together would be a good thing. People would be like, "What is wrong with those two?"
So I I have the thumbnail graphic of the Lux Files, where I have, the guest name and, what they are, blah, 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 blah. So with you, it was going to be Evelyn, owner of the Herb Witch Shop. But now I think I should put Evelyn, the Mary Tyler Moore of Heathenry. I like that. I think that's great. Yeah.
I guess I
won't actually do that.
I am so wholesome. Yeah, so many people tell me how wholesome I am. Not.
Strangers then.
Maybe before they break through the facade.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Now I'm gonna have that theme song stuck in my head for the rest of the night. I'm gonna try and how can we reword that theme song to include axe throwing and blood sacrifices?
I'd never wear that hat either.
Because it doesn't have horns on it.
No, because it's an ugly hat.
Yeah, well, it was the 70s. I mean,
I've never liked those flat hats, right? Like a fedora, yeah, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I kind of went through a ska period too.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and fedora hats aren't that bad, and they look good with Doc Martens. So,
yeah,
maybe, but not that. No.
Well, the 70s really were the dark ages of fashion. I for a while I thought, well, for a long while, for most of my life, I thought it was the 80s, but it really wasn't the 80s. I mean, the 80s was pretty horrific style-wise, but it had some there was style. I think the 70s were just really the dark ages of fashion. So you can't blame Mary Tyler Moore for that hat.
I'm not. It's not. I'm not blaming her per se. I'm blaming her production team.
You got to blame the whole decade.
Yeah, it's but then who knows? Maybe they just all had their own trauma they were dealing with, and
stupid boomers. They wreck everything.
Whatever. Okay, so now I'm gonna be thinking about her stupid hat for the rest of the night. Her throwing it in the air. Because when I was a kid, I'm like, that was dangerous. I remember thinking that. I'm like, you shouldn't be in traffic throwing your hat around. But that's the practical me, the overthinker me, this health and safety.
It should have been an axe.
Well, at least I know how to throw it properly rather than her hat. But that's right. Now I know my pet peeve. I'm sorry, because she was supposedly a feminist, but she wasn't. It was a lie. But anyway.
That's funny. Could have hit a seagull or a pigeon. How irresponsible. Goddamn boomers!
She's not thinking about anybody else.
You destroyed fashion and you killed pigeons with ugly hats.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I
gotta go.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And it was nice to talk a lot about heathenry to get for me to get a better understanding of it. My last episode, the person that I interviewed is heathen as well. So it's been really good. So thank you again. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You have a lovely evening and have a good weekend.
Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lux Files. You'll find all the guest links in the show notes, as well as the link www.leilogonzalwin.com/links That link will get you to my page of links, where you can then go to my Layla Okins Alwyn website, the Lux Files page, and my Layla Okins Alwyn YouTube channel that has all the Lux Files videos. It also has all my social media links there, so you can follow me and the Lux Files. And don't forget to subscribe to the Lux Files wherever you get your podcasts. And lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving me a review. Until next time.